Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. It's great to be speaking with you here today and looking forward to diving into our Training Thursday. Anytime I get to talk exercise and exercise programming is always a great day, and so I can't wait to get talking about this topic. And here's why. There's a core set of exercises, no pun intended, that we all should be able to do. I want to go over those today and also explain why it's so important. Because here's what happens. As you begin to age, all of a sudden, and I should say not so sudden, your abdominal muscles, and that includes, let's say, the whole core, which is your lower back, your obliques, the transverse abdominis, and I want to really link back to some of those episodes, it begins to become gradually weaker. And as it becomes gradually weaker, your stomach begins to slowly protrude. It's not as easy to keep it drawn in naturally. And also your posture begins to wane. So you start to slouch more a little bit forward. You start to lean on your chair, your desk a little bit more. You start to sway your lower back and hips. All of a sudden then we get those lower back pain or stiffness. The hamstrings become tighter. And I'm telling you right now that this is a very common occurrence in most people as they begin to age. But it has a real root cause as well, and a lot of that is biomechanical. Our bodies become weaker the more that we sit. So what we need to do is simply combat that on a daily basis or at least weekly basis in order to combat life, combat the aging-based process, and it's not that difficult. I'm going to give you a simple 5-minute maximum circuit today. That's it. Like super easy that you can add to absolutely any workout. Or what I would say is this, maybe you're all set in each one of these 5 areas. And if your current training program is allowing your core to stay strong enough by what you're already doing without doing these exercises, then you don't need to do them. And that's great. But if you're someone that has lower back pain or you have some abdominal weakness or protruding stomach, what I want you to do is begin to add these in so that you can pass the test. And this isn't graded, no one's going to know except you. And what I need you to look at is your strength in these areas. So here's why. What we're looking at, and I spoke about how it gets weaker. It gets weaker as we simply exercise less, move less. When you think about it, as a kid or in high school, in college, you're simply more active. You're usually up, you're moving around, you're more active. Over time, these muscles get weaker. And the reason they get weaker is not because you get weaker as you age. That's simply not a part of it. You get weaker because you stop making them as active. So your body is very happy to adapt to any lifestyle you put it in. And if your lifestyle is not causing or calling for you to be stronger, then what happens is those muscles begin to become a little bit weaker. And as they become, or I shouldn't say as they become weaker, your body will actually start to lose less muscle mass or lose more muscle mass in general, the less you move those muscles. And that's why it's so important. I've stated this before. It's for men and women, but the statistics are greatest in women. After the age of 27, you begin to lose 5 pounds of muscle mass per decade. And this research has been around now for many decades in and of itself. So here's what we look at. 5 pounds over a decade, and you might say to yourself, well, that's a half a pound of muscle a year. No big deal. True. But by the time you're 47 years old, you would have lost 10 pounds of muscle. That is a lot of muscle mass to lose. So again, is it gradual? Yes, all things are gradual for the most part, right? That filling up of the rain barrel is gradual. But one day you say, why can't I lose the weight? Why do my muscles feel weak? Why don't I have the energy or endurance? Why do I get tired so easily? Well, the reason is you've been losing muscle mass every single year. Along with that comes some bone mass. So again, in our 60s, we say, how did I become osteoporotic? How did I start to break down this bone mass? And how did I start to lose this muscle in what's called sarcopenia? Well, you began to lose that over the years because your body was simply less active. You didn't call on it to stay strong. That's why I'm such a huge proponent of resistance-based training. It's why I want you to lift weights. I don't need you to get under a barbell and do heavy back squats or anything like that. I want you to use your own body weight, some dumbbells, some bands, things like that. All right. I want you to stay physically fit. And I want you to do that 3 times per week. Twice is okay. And I've spoken about that before. Every Thursday, I do a Training Thursday or Toxic Thursday podcast. I would love you to go back to stephencabral.com/podcast and simply just go back to all of the Training Thursdays if you're interested in more of how to improve your overall physique and strength. It's not just about body transformation and looking better. It's about keeping your body strong for life. Here's the other benefit. The more muscle mass you have in your body, and again, we're not looking to turn you into a bodybuilder, but if you keep your muscle mass on your body, you're less likely to have as much body fat. You're more likely to have a stronger metabolism. Simply put, your muscle burns anywhere from 10 to 30 calories at rest per day, just basically having that muscle mass on you. It's also why your body looks at it as a detriment. Why? Why would your body look at muscle mass as a detriment? Because you need more calories per day to stay alive. Now that's great for us, right? But not at your body at a survival-based level. A lot of people in the health and fitness and research-based industry, they don't look at survival as much as I do or a lot of longevity or health-based researchers. You have to understand is that the less your body requires to stay alive, the happier it is. The problem is that it's not going to give us the body we want. We're not going to have as much energy. We're not going to be able to eat as many calories. That's what we want, right? But that's not necessarily what your body wants as an organism that simply wants to survive and stay alive. So what we need to do is a little bit different than what our body wants in terms of transformation and aging. So what we need to do for the long run is actually train our body, keep some muscle mass on, and if you're training for muscle mass, you'll also be training for bone. That's the great thing, is that if you can add muscle, you can certainly build bone. Now, again, for a lot of women, and this goes for men as well, that at some point, you're just not going to be able to add as much bone mass, and that's okay. And usually that's around the same age, 27 or so. So here's the thing. We then need to maintain. And if you're in your 50s and 60s, adding muscle mass or bone is going to be challenging. However, what I have seen in my own practice is that you can get back a lot of what you had earlier in life. You're not going to have as much testosterone. You're most likely not going to have as much of overall hormones and DHEA. However, that does not mean that if you're not eating a good quality diet and you're not exercising 3 times a week, that you can't literally transform your body. We have seen absolutely amazing body transformations with people in their 60s as well. So here's the thing, and this is what I always say. If you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s listening to this podcast, great. Then you can stay ahead of the game. And what I need you to do is start doing the exercise now. And if you're doing it, keep up with it. Because then you get to maintain it essentially for life. That's the amazing thing. If you let it go, a little bit more challenging to get it back, but you can, a lot of it you can get back, and it's absolutely worth it. So no matter where you fall on the spectrum, let's get moving or let's continue to keep it going. A lot of people don't love to exercise. It's okay. A lot of people don't love to eat good, high quality vegetables and fruit, but we have to do it no matter what. So you just kind of make it as part of your diet. Like people ask me like, well, why do you eat basically the same things every single day? Well, one is it's easy. There's no mind and brain work behind it. And I know that I have to get in all of these colorful foods in order to stay healthy. Would I like to eat other things that are not as healthy? Sure. I'm just like anybody else. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't enjoy ice cream and pizza and all of those things. I do. I mean, like, here's the thing. Like, people are like, oh, well, that's because you don't really enjoy those things. No, that's actually not true. I enjoy those foods like anyone else. I grew up with those sugary and tasty foods, and they're a part of me for sure. But the thing is, I know that they're not going to lead me to my goals. And my goals are on a daily basis. I want to have energy. I want to enjoy life. I want to have the vitality and the zest. And I want to be able to work long days. I want to be able to spend a lot of time and have energy with my kids. I want to be able to take vacations with them. And when they're, they need me for 16 hours a day, or maybe not that long with, kids that are younger and they're trying to get more sleep. But I want to have that energy as well. The other thing that I want, and that's leading me now to today's show, is that I don't want lower back problems. And I don't want that stiffness getting out of bed. And I don't want those aches and pains that a lot of people say, oh, well, it's just part of aging. Oh, when you get in your 40s, this happens. Oh, when you get in your 50s, this happens. I don't want that. So what I'm making sure is, even though I don't want to always do these core-based exercises, I do them. And the reason I do them is because I want to do something called preventative medicine. And we never talk about that, right? We go to the doctor when we're sick. When we have digestive issues, then we start working on our gut. When we have osteoporosis, then we start taking the CalMag and the vitamin D. Well, why are we doing these things ahead of time? Not only would it cost our country and our entire world so much less money in terms of sick care, which is all we provide in conventional medicine, but what if we did things that prevented that in the first place, like they do in a lot of other countries where they pay for a lot of these so-called alternative-based medicines? Well, when a country is providing that type of healthcare where they're paying for their citizens, then they pay for a lot of these things that do prevent illness because they know how much those illnesses cost. In the United States, well, the government is essentially in cahoots with pharma and in cahoots with insurance and all of these things, and it's a big racket. And they love overcharging us, and they love overcharging us for insurance and for pharmaceuticals. I mean, some pharmaceutical drugs cost $100,000 a year for people. I mean, it's completely insane. Look at chemotherapy. It's one of the pharmaceutical drugs that doctors get paid to sell to people, and it costs over $100,000 for the treatments. It's crazy. Now, I'm not saying anything against chemotherapy. What I'm saying is that the cost is insane. Like, it's completely insane. A lot of biologic drugs are $50,000 to $100,000 a year, and people are on them every single year. It's completely insane. Well, what if we did something about the autoimmune issues in the first place? All right, I'm going down a different tangent that I will save for another day. Let's talk about why we need to do preventative care for our body, okay? I don't want you to have the stiffness, the aches, the pains, the lower back issues. And I want you to be able to have a nice, small, firm waist. Why do I want that? Well, one, it's going to protect your lower back, your spine, which is not meant to be mobile and move around a lot. It's meant to be static and stable. Your thoracic spine, which is right above it, should be mobile. It should move around. And I've done a podcast on this as well. And then your hips, they should be mobile, but not your lower back. That's how you get injured, okay? So we want to make sure of that. And the other part to this too is that you don't want a thin waist without it being functionally strong, right? You don't want to just do that. And then the third piece is this, is that the leaner your waist, I'm not saying that you need to be super skinny or even see all your abs, but here's the deal. When you have a smaller waist-hip ratio, lower chance for cancer, lower chance for gallbladder liver-based issues, lower chance for diabetes, and a lot of the risk factors that lead to the top causes of death. So of course I want you to have a smaller waist. Again, vanity always aside, the leaner you are to a certain point, if you get too lean, it's actually not healthy either. But the leaner you are to a certain extent, remember normal BMI, normal body fat percentage, 14, 18% for men, 18 to 22% for women. You can go a little bit lower with each one. It's totally fine. Men can actually get much lower into the single digits and still be healthy. Women, no, that's not as healthy. It's not healthy for hormones and amenorrhea and other issues that come along with it. But I want you to be healthy and I want you to be lean. And that's because if you're leaner, you're less likely to die of one of these cancer, high blood pressure, cardiovascular based issues, right? All the top causes of disease. I don't want that for you. So here's what we need to do. Let's talk about our core-based exercises. Let's combine these core-based exercises with our current exercise program, even if it's just 10,000 steps a day of walking, and let's combine it with good, healthy nutrition. Okay, so the first exercise I want you to be able to pass is this. And again, no worries if you can't pass it. Nobody's watching you, and you're simply going to work on it every day until you master it. No big deal. And these things take 1 minute a day. 60 seconds is all I'm asking for. All right. This first one is called a quadruped pose, and it simply means that you're going to get on all fours. Your hands are going to be below your shoulders, and your elbows are going to be straight, but not locked out. And then you're going to have your knees below your hips, okay? And then your feet will be extended out. So we're in an all fours position, and we're going to do an exercise called the alternating arm and leg bird dog. We're going to do our best to link up a photo of every single one of these exercises at our show notes page today. So head on over to stevencabral.com/1133. Okay, so head on over there, follow along at the same time as I'm talking about these exercises. StephenCabral.com/1133. Okay, so alternate arm, leg, bird dog. What is that? Well, you're in your quadruped position on all fours, and you're going to lift your left arm and you're going to point it out straight so that your bicep comes right beside your left ear. Left arm out, left ear, and give me a thumbs up. Go thumbs up. That will keep your shoulder and hand basically in a neutral position. It's easiest on the shoulder for right now. And at the same time you're lifting that arm and pointing it straight ahead, I'm going to have you lift your right leg off the ground remember, the same exact time. Now, as you're doing that, tighten your core. Tighten your abs, tighten your lower back, tighten your obliques, all right? It just means basically cinch everything tight. That's all. You're not going to draw in. You're not going to suck in. You're just going to make it tight, okay? You're going to extend that right leg out behind you. So we have your left arm pointed out straight and your right leg pointed out straight, and you're going to engage your glute. That's the most important part with the lower body. Strengthen those glutes, because those glutes, what do? Well, they're the largest muscle in your body, the gluteus maximus. You have your gluteus minimus. You have your gluteus medius. You don't need to know all of those. But what I need to know is that when you tighten those muscles, the largest muscle in your body, so if we can strengthen those, we can lift them up, right? Get them stronger because they start to sag a little bit as you age, only if you're not working those muscles. So we have that. And then those muscles support your lower back. Crucial, right? But also if you're extending the hip flexors, which is your glute, you're opening up the hip flexors. So by strengthening and tightening the hip extensors, you open the hip flexors, which are the front of the body, typically referred to the main one that we know about. Oh, we know about all the muscles in the body, but the main one that most people know about is called the iliopsoas. And the psoas actually connects up through the front of the hip all the way up to your thoracic and lumbar spine, which causes a lot of issues with people. So this is a great corrective exercise as well. I love that exercise. It's something that we introduce in the beginning of every client's program that comes into our Boston-based fitness studio. So that's a great one to do, and I hope that you take advantage of that. Okay, so what do I want you to do? I simply want you to complete anywhere between 20 and 30 reps, and that's 10 to 15 on each side, and you're alternating each time. So left arm up, right leg out, put that back down at the same time, stabilize the top, hold for a full second, put them back down, then go right arm up, left leg out, and squeeze that left glute, okay? And then you're just going to alternate back and forth for between 20 and 30 repetitions. Easy. You'll complete that in 60 seconds. The next one that I would like you to do is you're going to do a V pose, okay? And the V pose is called a boat in yoga. There are multiple names for the pose. It's one of my favorites. It's not easy to do. It's not simple, but eventually you'll master it. And when you master this, you'll know that those abdominal muscles and your obliques and your lower back are all stronger. The V pose is basically like it says. You're going to sit on your glutes and you're going to lift your legs. Now keep them bent in the beginning. And then what I want you to do is extend your arms out to the side. In the beginning, it's a little bit more challenging. So if you need to, hold onto your knees very lightly, very gently, and then very slowly, you'll extend your legs a little bit. And you'll take your hands off your legs a little bit. Okay, once you master that, eventually, you'll be able to extend your legs straight, which will also show good hamstring flexibility. And those hamstrings, remember, when they're tight, they pull in your lower back, and you'll be able to put your arms out to the side. Take your time getting there. There's no race in life. Like, that's the thing, is like you have the rest of your life to be able to do these. All I want you to do is take your time, let's say over a month's period of time, to be able to get yourself to 60 seconds with that pose. Well, how do we progress? Well, all we want to do is add 5 to 10 seconds a week. So let's say you could hold that for 20 seconds week one. Then great. Then that's fantastic. Remember, you're only competing against yourself. There's no one else to compete against. And then on week 2, you do this every day. On week 2, maybe you can add another 10 seconds. Maybe just add 2 seconds a day. That's it. And then what you'll do is you'll gradually improve till you can hold to 60 seconds. What happens at the end of month 1 if you can't complete 60 seconds? Nothing. No big deal, right? All you do is stick with it. Stick with it. Keep sticking with it. And I know that eventually you'll get to 60 seconds no matter what age you are. I want you to be able to do this at 80 years old. I want you to be able to do it at 100 years old, okay? I mean, that's the honest truth. We have an in-home client who's 105 years old. Pretty cool. So just, again, these are exercises that we want everyone doing. All right. The third one is this. The third one you're going to be the most familiar with probably. It's called a plank. And a plank, simply put, you're going to get down on the ground, face down, Okay, we call this a prone position, face down. We're going to get you on your forearms. That means your hands are going to be in fists, and you're going to be elbows down on the ground all the way to your fists. And then you're going to lift your whole body up so that you're only on your toes. Basically, you're on the balls of your feet, toes are bent, and you're on your forearms. Now, you're going to lift your hips. This is where most people go wrong. With a plank, you do not want your hips sagging. If anything, you want them a little higher. So always err on the side of keeping your hips higher than parallel to the floor. If they sag, you are not engaging your core muscles, and you're actually putting more tightness on those erector spinae muscles, which is the lower back. So what I want you to do is hips a little bit higher than you think they should. Use a mirror or have a friend watch you. Keep them higher in the beginning. Trust me on this. You'll get more benefit even if they're way above parallel. Always more benefit that way, okay? So I want you to hold this position for 60 seconds. Start at 30 seconds if that's all you have. No big deal. Start at 10 seconds. Who cares? Like, everybody starts somewhere. I want you to see yourself improve over 4 to 6 weeks, which is exactly what we have our clients do. Now, once you master this, fantastic. Some people like to put a little bit of weight on their back. I don't necessarily need to do that. What I like to do is master that body weight. So what I'll have people do is stack one leg on top of the other for 30 seconds, and then we switch to the other leg and stack that. So it's 3 points instead of 4. But honestly, just completing the regular plank for 60 seconds total already shows me that you're mastering that core strength as long as your hips are above that parallel line. So love the plank position. All right, next up, number 4 is this. And this is huge, okay? So you know what? I'm going to save number 4 for last. Let's switch that order. I'm going to give you right now the static Superman, all right? Or Superwoman. So what I want you to do is lie, again, flat on the ground. We're prone on the ground. You can go right from your plank position. Here's what I want you to do. Okay, so you're lying on your stomach, and what I'm going to have you do is lift your legs, and that includes your quads, which is your thigh muscles, and lift your arms off the ground at the same time. So what you're left with is just your hips touching the ground. So from right around where your navel is, your belly button, all the way down to just the top of the quadriceps, right? Right below those hips. That's all that's going to be left on the ground because you've raised your stomach up, your chest up, your arms up, and you've lifted your legs way off the ground. This is called a Superman or Superwoman. And what I want you to do is this. Don't raise your head at the same time. Too many people pick their chin up and look to the ceiling. I understand why they're doing it because they're trying to give themselves more thrust, but you always want to keep your spine in a neutral position. So you don't need to lift that head up. That goes for the first exercise, the alternating arm and leg bird dog as well. Just keep that head looking right down towards the floor or in line with the rest of your upper body. So what we've done is we've essentially lifted the arms and legs off the ground. It's not a big movement. 2-3 inches off the ground, that's about it. But I want you to hold this. And I want you to test yourself. How long can you hold this position? Can you hold it for 20 seconds? Can you hold it for 30 seconds? Because if you can, then you have a very strong lower back and glutes. Remember, squeeze those glutes and strengthen your lower back. If you do that without thrusting, without trying to arch your back up, without throwing yourself up in the air, you have a very strong core. And that's all lower back right there. So I love to see that people have a strong lower back. Those muscles are very important, especially when we sit down all day. Those muscles get weak and we lean on our desk or we lean on our chair. Those muscles are not engaged to work. Okay, let's say you can't hold that for 20 to 30 seconds. Not a problem. What I want you to do is do reps. You'll touch your hands down, you touch your legs down, and then you slowly raise, remember, slow is the key word here, slowly raise them up at the same time, and then back down, slowly touch the floor. Then come right back up, and then come back down. Eventually, you won't need to touch your legs or your arms or chest down between repetitions. And you'll be able to do 15 to 20 reps, just up and down, just like that without touching. That's great. And then what you can do is the static hold. That's the most challenging right there. Even people who, can do 15, 20 reps because they do it with momentum. But when you do a static hold, which means isometric, you're just holding, much harder, but worth working up to. All right. The last one is this. And you don't need to do it multiple times. It's just a test, okay? I want you to lie on your back, like a yoga mat, an ab mat, any of those things are fine. I want your legs extended out straight. I want your arms by your side. And I just want you to see, can you sit up all the way without any assistance from your arms. So it's a full sit-up. Here's the thing. I first learned this, and I've shared this story before, from my doctor. This is way back in the day. And he said, I always like to see if patients can sit up off the exam table without rolling to their side and using their arms. The more they're able to sit up, I know the healthier their lower back strength and their overall core strength. And I thought this was really smart. So I like to use it today. I just test people. And I just look for it, in general, if I'm training someone. But what I like to say is this: lie on your back all the way. Don't use your hands. Just keep them up in front of you. Can you sit all the way up without rolling to one side or using your arms? And if you can't, it's not a problem. No big deal. The 4 exercises I just give you previously will help to strengthen those core muscles. And I've given you previous ab workouts in the past. So what I need you to do is, after you do these 4 exercises, just give yourself maybe 30 seconds to breathe for a moment, get your strength back, and then try that. Try just doing one full, it's not a sit-up, but it's basically a full get-up. It's not an exercise, it's a test. So you just want to see if you can do that. And if you can, well, then you're getting there to being able to have that great core strength that all of us need. It's that exercise at the end that shows you, can you get up out of bed without rolling to one side or using your arms? And it goes a long way. I'll tell you right now is we've worked with helping a lot of people with rehabilitation. We've helped people to make sure that they don't have to enter a nursing home or assisted living, that they can do exercises like this. This one is huge. And it's so important to be able to get off the ground, to be able to sit up out of bed, whatever it takes. And it just shows that you have the lower back, oblique, and ab strength to be able to do it. So I hope that you enjoyed these 5 core and ab exercises today. Really, not only are they great to do, but it's a test to see what your core strength is like right now. Love to hear from you. How did you do on the test? Let me know over at cabralsupportgroup.com or our Instagram page, or my Instagram page, which is just Stephen Cabral. Love to hear from you over there. Always enjoy seeing your comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, please do feel free to share this show with anyone else you believe it may serve. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.